Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. How is your week going? Did anybody have anything fun happen over Valentine's Day? I didn't. It was pretty low key, and that's just fine. I think I went to bed at 9:30. Anyway, today, in honor of Valentine's Week, we are going to be talking about heart-centered visioning. So if you're here watching, let me know how you're doing and maybe what you're hoping to get out of today. I was wondering if you can hear this space heater underneath my table. I'm just going to turn it off. I realized that it might be kind of loud, but it's nice in the winter. All right. So we are going to get started today. And I would like to say that this talk today is we're going to be talking about a really powerful strategy in order to tune into your intuition and feel what's coming from your heart rather than just being more of a logical thinker. Good morning. How are you doing? All right. So, the first thing we're going to discuss is these heart centered goals and how they can help us both in our personal as well as in our professional life. So basically, the point of being able to do this is to create more authenticity and alignment so that our values can line up with what we want to be achieving. And this doesn't just have to be in your personal life or your relationships. In work, sometimes we can feel, and I don't know if I'm alone here, that when our values line up really well with the culture and the work community that we're in, it can make our jobs so much more enjoyable. The work tends to attract other people who feel the same way, and there's just a better sense of community and collaboration within the workspace. Has anyone had that experience? I know I have, and I really value when my coworkers like to talk about what's going on with their clients, and maybe we share clients, and then we get to improve the health and lives of the people that we work with because we want to create this help together rather than just in our own silos, which is also how I found other jobs to have been. Good morning, Rosita. How are you? So glad you're here. So, when you are able to live with that alignment, because we spend a lot of time at work, if you're someone who works 9 to 5, 7 or 8 hours a day, that's a lot of time to spend either enjoying what you're doing or resenting and dreading the job that you have. So why not make it line up to what is important to you? It also helps to keep you motivated and engaged in your job, which I think for a lot of us, when we're lacking those things, can be a big contributing factor to burnout. Because when we tend to feel apathetic or just not as involved anymore, then we don't have a feeling of desire or drive or purpose. And I think for myself, at least, that's a really important aspect of going to work every day and wanting to get up in the morning and do those things. And the same goes for our relationships. We can look at the people that we're spending time with, and if those people are positive and forward thinking and, it doesn't matter, those things would be important to me, but whatever it is that's important to you, if you can share those values with the people who you're closest with in your life, then those are the traits that you will start to kind of take from them, and vice in terms of them also kind of borrowing those from you. The concept of the like five, which I know I've spoken about before, but we become most like the five people who we spend the most time with. So pick those people carefully, or pick those people who maybe you aren't like yet, but you would like to become closer to. Hopefully that makes sense. Oh, good morning, Sharon. How are you doing? Are you ladies enjoying your Fridays, your Valentine's Day week? Did you get to do anything exciting on Wednesday? I'd love to hear. So, when we can start to pursue these heart centered goals, then we can have more improved well being, a greater sense of self, and be able to line up our actions with our values and beliefs. And as I've said a lot of times so far this year, it seems, where we put our focus is what our unconscious mind moves us towards. So we can either choose to be focused on things that are positive, that make us happy, that help us to feel fulfilled, or we can focus on the things we don't want. But when we do that, that's where our energy is headed towards. So be cautious about what you're thinking and what you're saying, and you can start to have more awareness about catching yourself in the moment when you have these negative thought patterns come up. I have an example of this for myself, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if some of you saw, I went to drop in gymnastics earlier this week, which is where I got this rip that is still not quite healed. Anyway, I was doing some bars because the rest of the gym was pretty busy. Turns out that all ages drop in means under the age of 10. So lots of little kids running around, and we were the only adults, which is fine. But the floor was so busy that I figured I would do bars. And I was doing my bar like routine, and then like Mike, my partner, was spotting me because it's been a while. And then after I wanted to be able to do one of the moves on the high bar, I came down and I was like, okay, that felt pretty good. And then he said, do you want me to film you? And I was like, sure, I'm curious to see what it looks like. So I did the same thing over again. But I noticed in the video, I came down and my face was like this. And I think it's because I'm still not the biggest fan of being on camera. But I was like, huh, interesting. I made that face. Clearly, I felt it wasn't good enough. And then when I watched the video, I was very critical of like, oh, my form, my head went back, my toes weren't pointed, all of this stuff. So instead, I decided, okay, if those are the things that I'm choosing to focus on, then that's what I'm going to be doing more of, focusing on my flaws, focusing on the mistakes. Instead, I tried to reframe it to focus on, wow, like this looks pretty decent considering you haven't done this in 15 years. It's okay, there's room for improvement. And the soreness that I felt in my body for 3 days afterwards was also a learning in terms of, okay, maybe if I do this more often, it'll become easier because my body just needs to get used to it. So, a little bit of a reframe, and that doesn't necessarily line up to work or personal relationships, but it is that inner critic voice that is with us, or our inner voice. It doesn't have to be a critic, but it's with us all the time. Does anyone have experiences like that that they've had recently? I thought today we would do one of the neuro drills that really helps to tune into your intuition. It's called the somatic yes no. And the idea here is that we can use our breath to then gauge the response of our body when we're making a decision. Because sometimes, myself included, we get so stuck in our heads when we're making decisions that we logic our way through everything. And yes, I would say it's really important to have a well functioning frontal lobe because we need that. However, that gut feeling you get, and sometimes you just push it away or you don't really pay attention to it, and then later you realize, huh, I could have done this differently. You can relate? Yeah, totally. So, what we want to do to prime that intuition is to practice asking questions, and they can be simple questions at first. So, if you'd like to join me in this, you are welcome to close your eyes, and I just want you to put your hand either on your chest or you could put your hands on the sides of your rib cage, and we're just going to see what a breath feels like here. So, take a breath in and out. And then I'd like you to say something that you know is true. So you could say your name, for example. My name is, and then take a breath in and breathe out. And then say something else you know is true. Maybe the sun is going to rise tomorrow. And then breathe in and breathe out. And just notice what that feels like in your body. Ideally, there shouldn't be much restriction in your breathing because these are things that are true for you. If you need practice, try coming up with some other things. Maybe today is Friday, depending on your time zone and when you're watching it, change the day. And now I would like you to say something that you know is false. So maybe that's just a different name, or a different day, or I like to drink bleach, something like that. And go ahead and see what happens in your breath. I like to drink bleach. For me, that causes a constriction in my breath. Has anyone who's joining me doing this felt that in the difference between when they're breathing and saying something that's true compared to breathing and saying something that is not true or could even be dangerous? My name is Sarah. It is not. Okay, so, what we are going to do is just practice getting a feeling for when your body is saying yes to something compared to when it's saying no to something. And saying yes is going to typically feel smoother or easier than saying no, which might bring up that constriction or the tightness or just less of a full breath. This can be a really helpful exercise when you need to make a decision or set a boundary so that you can tune in to your heart and your intuition as opposed to just saying yes because you think you should say yes, or not being able to make a decision that's going to benefit you because it's not really aligned with your beliefs or values. So practice doing this on a regular basis. Maybe it's in the morning, you're like, do I have coffee or tea? Or should I wear a black pair of pants or a gray pair of pants? Start with easy decisions first because that's how we can prime our system. And then you can start to use this for things that are a little bit more challenging, maybe for bigger decisions. Does that drill make sense? If you guys played along with me, how did it go for you? I would love to hear. The second part of making heart centered goals, I have said, is using a vision board or visioning. And I actually had a vision board that I was trying to find. However, it seems to be gone. So we're not going to use mine as an example. But I would just say that over the years, I haven't necessarily been the biggest vision board maker because I don't know, I don't have a lot of magazines to cut up, and it's just another thing that can sit around and collect dust. But what I do want to say is that even if you're not making a physical vision board, visuals are super helpful to allow you to focus on what it is that you want. Yeah, Sharon, it'll take practice. Absolutely. And that is certainly key here. We want to start practicing, especially if you're not good at tuning into your intuition or you feel it could take some, maybe get some improvement. And the more you practice, the more those pathways will become wired more like efficiently, and then it'll become an easier decision or easier boundary to set because you'll know right away. And maybe you don't even have to have your hand on your heart. Maybe you just feel it, and that feeling is what drives your behavior or your decision. Anyway, back to the visioning. I tend to draw out what I want. Oh, Canva. That's a great idea. Okay, I could probably make a Canva vision board. Thank you for the suggestion. My Canva doesn't tend to collect dust like poster board does, even though maybe on Canva you could still print it out and put it somewhere, or have it as your background on your phone, maybe. Okay, we're coming up with some ideas as a group here. This is fantastic. So, if you wanted to make a vision board on Canva, that could be kind of fun. As I was saying, our minds are very much visually oriented. So when you are thinking of things, the picture or the image is one of the most important aspects of our unconscious mind creating like goals or plans for us. So being able to have something in mind really helps to give it more data. And so you can also, along with the vision, think of what you might hear, smell, taste, or touch, and create a really full sensory picture that isn't just a flat image on a piece of paper or on your computer screen. So if you were going to do that, you could have your you could certainly have your vision board, whether it's a physical vision board on the computer or just when you close your eyes, you can summon up pictures, and then with those images, think of what sounds you might hear, the things you could smell, maybe a taste depending on the experience, and then also what feelings you have in your body. So that doesn't necessarily have to be emotions. It could be, is there warmth or tingling or pressure? What is associated with this image? And then enhance the image. Imagine turning the dial up of those sensations, make the image brighter, make it bigger, make it more enticing. And that is how we can use our vision board to create a more real draw for our unconscious mind to move towards. So in this in this training, we won't get too far into the details, but if you already have a vision board, what you could do is look at each of the aspects of the board. Maybe you have different cutouts, and then create more of a sensory experience with each of the things that you are visioning for yourself. Maybe some is like related to your health, some is in your relationship, some is in work, some is with your home. Like all of those things, you can definitely build out a picture that has more richness to it and create, again, more motivation and more detail for your unconscious mind to move towards. What we want to do in our third and final step here of creating our heart-centered goals and actually being able to have them come true is giving our unconscious mind those details to make it real. So just like we were talking about in the second point with the vision board, it's like when you're going to look for a house and you tell your realtor that you are looking for a house, and you don't tell them where, what city, what country, what kind of house. Is it an apartment, a townhouse, a duplex, a like detached home, how big it needs to be, how many bathrooms and bedrooms you want. It's going to be challenging for the realtor to figure out what to look for to help you get this house. So we need to be able to give a lot of details to our unconscious mind, and that's where the visioning can come in really handy. You could watch YouTube videos depending on what it is that you want. If it's a car, you could go take that car for a test drive. You could look at job listings or real estate listings. There are so many ways that you can make those experiences more vivid for yourself so that it's easier for your unconscious mind to fill in that dream or the goal and help you achieve it. And I would recommend doing this regularly again because we can get our nervous systems more and more ready for this, because the more time or energy you spend focusing on a certain experience or thing that you want, the more myelin will cover the nerve, the faster the electricity will be conducted, and the more readily fired those pathways will be. So what I wanted you to get out of today is that we can have these goals. I would like the goals, ideally for you, to be as aligned as possible with your beliefs and values. And if you're not sure, you can use that somatic yes no technique to help you figure out what might feel right for you. So this is more about feeling rather than thinking. And then if you have a vision board or this amazing example of using Canva, something to look at that reminds you, that can be this trigger to help you come back to your goals. And then as you build out the sensory experiences of those goals by creating more layers of depth to the things that you're moving towards, then your unconscious mind will be, plugging away in the background, working towards this without you putting in more effort to do so. Hopefully all of those things make sense, and you are going to be able to tune into your intuition a little bit more in order to make the beautiful changes that you want to see in your life and the lives of your family and friends here. So with that, does anyone have any takeaways, any questions? I would love to have any questions that you have submitted in the chat here, or you can use the Google form if you'd rather it be anonymous, because the last live or sorry, the next live, I'm unfortunately not going to be here. I'm in a course next Friday. And then the one after, I'm in another course. So if you could pre submit questions, I will happily make a video so that I can address anything that's come up for you. And I would love to hear what you're thinking about this subject and what you might want to hear or learn about in the future. So I'll drop the link for the Google form below. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I can't wait to hear from you soon.